And I think one of the other rules around communicating with people is to recognise that we all have different needs. So not everyone with a disability is the same. I might have particular needs around my inability to sign, my inability to fill out a form. Other people might have particular needs around their vision or around not understanding complex information. So the most important thing you can do if you want to know how to best assist the person is to just ask them. Don't assume. Ask them, how's the best way that I can help you?
Is we see so many staff members speaking over the top of the person with a communication impairment, not allowing them the time and the respect to finish what they're saying or to have genuine input into the situation. So it's okay for employees to sit in silence to enable that person with a disability that time to think about what they have to say and their right of reply.
Staff will sometimes speak to us with this special voice and they'll kind of say, so how are you feeling? How are you doing, love? And it's almost like they're treating us like children. And actually our intelligence varies just as much as the general population. It might seem like we're not always taking things on, but that's often our mental health experiences or the effects of medication.
Take a seat when you're sitting in your wheelchair, or they've got to look down at them over the top of the counter, or they'll hand them a piece of paper and say, fill this in, and everyone else can stand up at the desk and write it in, but they don't give them a clipboard, and there's no low area where they've got to write up, where they can sit with their wheelchair and fill in the form, and they don't take into account the reasonable adjustments.
The first thing would be if there's a TTY number advertised and people call it, often the call isn't answered because no one knows how to use the device. Secondly, staff misunderstanding what the complaint's about because there is no communication partner as part of that process. And third, it would be having agencies like VicDeaf who then actually have to make the complaint on the deaf person's behalf because there's no way for them to access that to make a complaint personally. So all of those have a huge impact, and the first being that the participant or the client becomes really frustrated, probably will give up and actually not bother trying to follow it through, and then they'll actually just lose faith in the service.
The venue might not be accessible, so it could be on the 5th floor of a building and the concierge hasn't been informed that the person with a disability is coming in and they don't have, speech, so they need a communication device, so the concierge may need to assist them to actually get to that floor. There could be dexterity issues. The venue might not even be appropriate.
There's nothing drilled into their training that sort of says to them, well, look, when you come across a situation that doesn't really fit the procedure, you've got a licence to make reasonable adjustments for someone where it won't fit.
Get to know the person. It's don't be the agency taking over or taking the power away from them. Get to know them, get to hear their story. Once you actually put yourselves in their shoes, it's much easier to find a solution that's going to work for them, and it'll be much easier for the agency to actually step through that process and do it well. Where it failed recently for a client of mine is the agency used its own lingo and its own language in trying to resolve the issue, which for me made little sense. Clearly the client didn't get it either. So once I actually then stepped into the client's shoes myself and said to the agency, you need to actually literally draw a diagram of what is going to happen to fix this problem and then show the diagram to the person, then they'll actually get it. If they need to take it home and keep it with them as a visual tool, even better. Once they actually drew the diagram, the client got it straight away.
So when you're communicating with someone with a mental health need, it can help to be aware that sometimes we're hearing voices or even seeing visions that you mightn't be aware of, and that can make it really hard to communicate. If you imagine what it might be like if you were listening to a talkback radio show really loud while you were trying to carry on a conversation, that can be helpful in understanding the kind of barriers that we face. Also be aware that very often we're taking medication that can be quite sedating, and that can make it really hard to concentrate or to remember things. So it's great if you can bear that in mind and just be aware that we might need a little bit more time or some memory prompts to help us along. Please don't think that we're being difficult intentionally. I've never met anyone who's actually intentionally trying to be difficult. And sometimes our experiences can make things challenging, but we don't like that either. Empowerment is something that's really important to us. Very often, life, our mental health, and then service systems have taken our power away. And it can take a really big effort for us to contact a service to make a complaint or ask for help. Very often we've had to use services that haven't been very nice or that might have been quite frightening. So it might take a little bit extra before we trust you.
Always speak to the person with a disability. Speak to them directly, recognising that they are the person who you're communicating with. Even if they're there with an interpreter, even if they're with a carer, you should always speak to the person with a disability first.
That the patient number 2 and number 3
Treat them with dignity, allow them the time to communicate and relay their message, also enabling them to equally participate and presume competence when speaking with them rather than incompetence, and take the time to listen to their responses. So do not refer them on by saying, here you go, see you later. Actually take that time to assist that person in referring them to the appropriate person or position or department and convey that message for them. Ask them yes, no questions until you're actually understanding how it is that they're communicating. So find out how they're saying yes, no first. After you've asked them the yes and no questions and built that rapport with them, is actually to enable them to have choice around what they're responding to you, is to ask them first what it is that they would like or whatever the message is that you're trying to convey, and tell them that you're going to repeat it so then they can truly exercise choice and control, be it yes, no, later on.
Deafness is a hidden disability, so chances are you're actually not even going to know that the person's deaf until they don't respond. So you might need to think about other alternatives. Would they like pen and paper? Is there someone else that can go and meet with them and take the time for them to have their say? Accessibility, making sure that they can be reached. Can people access email or SMS to make contact? The second would be interpreter provision. It doesn't matter if a council or a service is metro-based, rural or regional. If they can't physically get an interpreter into the premises, with the use of technology and video conferencing now, it's not difficult to access and have an interpreter present. And finally, the third one would be deaf awareness training. It'd be great to have point of call staff, so reception, to complete some basic deaf awareness training so then they can better meet the needs of individuals as they attend.
Firstly, asking about people's needs is really important. When you're talking to someone who's under 18, it's really good to let them know up front that you might have to disclose certain information if they tell you that they're being abused or neglected. But it's also really important to think about how you communicate with young people a bit differently. So young people tend to be sometimes more comfortable with technology. So make sure you've got a work phone or a work Facebook account or a work Skype channel that you can use to contact young people and talk to them about what they need. When we've had good experiences with services, it's been when they've recognised that a young person might be vulnerable, they might be a bit stressed or feeling like they can't speak up because there's a real power imbalance, and they've actually offered for the young person to have advocacy involved in the process from the start or from a point where they've realised that things are not going well.
Ask the person, what is it that you need? How can I help you? In what way can I assist you today?